Alright, and welcome to this lesson where we're going to continue on developing the dashboard page. So the first thing I want to do is focus my attention on the events box right here. And so what I want to do is first of all target the unordered list and change its background to the transparent background so we can see the cream color behind the unordered list, and that way we can see the text. So let's target the ID col events, which is that right hand side box, and then we're going to target the unordered list that's nested inside of there and change the background color to transparent. And then I can just save that, hit refresh, and there we go, we now have a transparent background. Now the next thing I want to do is take a look at the list items, because each list item has got this bottom border on here which I want to get rid of. So again, I'm going to target col events, and then I'm going to target each list item and set the border bottom to none. And then just go ahead and save that, hit refresh, and you'll get rid of the border bottom. So now we just have the border bottom on the anchor. Then the next thing I want to do is take a look at the image, because currently the border color is wrong and also the spacing is incorrect as well. And if you want to take a look at the spacing, don't forget you can always inspect and then actually view the margins. If you scroll right down, you get a nice little diagram of, the margins and the padding and so on and so forth. So clearly the margins are wrong right here. It's 15 pixels on each side and 10 pixels on the right hand side. And so let's go ahead and target those image elements. So again, col events, target all the image elements that are nested inside of there. I want to change the margin to 0 on the top. Then I want 15 pixels on the right hand side, and then it's going to be 0, 0 for the other margin. So that 15 pixels right there is just pushing the text away from the image. So if I hit refresh now, you'll notice that we have a nice 15 pixels right there on the right hand side. But then also what I want to do is change the border color as well. So let's go ahead and put in that property, and we want to go into Photoshop, and let's just zoom in a little bit here because I want to click on this right here and grab that color just like so and paste this in. So now that I've done that, let's go ahead and save this, hit refresh, and that's looking pretty good. Okay, so now when I hover over the anchor, I also want the border color to change. So how do I do that? Well, what I'm going to do is copy this selector, paste it down below. So what we're going to do is we're going to target the element with that ID. We're going to target all the anchors that are nested inside of there and wait until they're hovered over. And then when they're hovered over, we're going to target the image element that's nested inside of that anchor that's being hovered over. And then what you can do is change the border color to be dark yellow, just like so. And we're just going to save that, hit refresh. So now when you hover over, it goes to dark yellow. Alright, so that's looking really nice. And then what I want to do is take a look at the spacing of the paragraphs, because currently the paragraphs are a little bit off right here with their spacing. And again, you can inspect it and take a look, and you can see here we've got a padding of 20 pixels on every single edge. So now I'm going to target the ID, col events again, target all the paragraph elements. And then I want to change the padding top to be 20 pixels. There's no problem in that, but the rest of the padding I want to simply get rid of because it's making this anchor too large. So when I save that and hit refresh, it should come down a little bit, and that's looking really nice. Now the only other thing is that these anchors right here are 1 pixel less than the height of these anchors right here. So what I want to do is go ahead and target the ID col events. And then I want to target all of the anchors inside of there, and I just want to add 1 more pixel, so we'll just say padding bottom is going to be 21 pixels, because don't forget the padding for all anchors is 20 pixels all the way around, but we just want to add 1 more onto the bottom of those anchors, and that way everything lines up perfectly. So now that we've done that, we can start to make this whole thing mobile responsive, and then we can start to make this section a little bit more dynamic by fetching in the JSON data. So what I'm going to do is take a look at this 880 pixel media query right here. And I want to basically get rid of all the white space. So what I'm going to do is target the element with the ID of large box, which is containing our graph at the top. And then also I want to target the element with the ID of col wrap, which is wrapping around our two boxes down below. And so the large box has a margin of 35 pixels, so I'm going to set the margin to 0. And the col wrap has padding, so I'm going to set the padding to 0. And I can just save that now. We can hit refresh, and then I can go below, and you'll notice that we start to get rid of some of that white space, but we still have this white space right here on our notifications box. So now let's target the ID col notes, which is our notifications box, and then what I can do is get rid of the padding right, and also I can get rid of the background image that's being applied, so I'm going to set that to none. And then also I want a nice border, because the problem is if I save this now and hit refresh, you'll notice that again it's not looking quite right. I want this sort of divided just by a simple 1 pixel border. So the border right is going to be 1 pixel solid, and it's going to be light grey. And I can just save that, hit refresh, and now you'll see there's a nice divide. So the next thing I want to do is take a look at creating another media query for when the screen gets a little bit smaller, because obviously things are going to start to get smushed, and also you have the problem of the large box right here not going to 100% of the width. So let's go ahead and copy this media query out, and we are going to change it to 680. And then what I want to do is inside of there, let's target the large box first of all, and make sure that it goes to 100% of the browser's width. Again, you could put this in the 580 if you wanted to, but I'm just going to put it in the 680. So go ahead and save that, and then just simply hit refresh in the browser, then it'll go to 100%. You could also set the width to 100% right here, because technically col wrap and large box are going to be 100%, and that will save a little bit of the file size, so I can just delete that out. Again, there are many methods which you can approach this. So once I've done that, what I want to do next is take a look at these two boxes down below. I want them to effectively be 100%. So let's target both those div elements. So I'm just going to do that in one swoop, which is targeting col wrap and then targeting the div elements that are nested inside of there. I'm going to tell this to display as a block level element. I'm also going to tell this to float to the left. Then also I want to set the width to 100%, so it goes to 100% of the browser's width. And then also I'm going to set the border to none. So let's go ahead and save that. And of course what I'll do is just get rid of that border right there, which is fine, because if you don't do that, then what you'll end up with is a little scroll bar right here, because it's not factoring in the border width when we set the width. So you can say, you know, box sizing, but ultimately we don't want any border on there anymore. Also, the reason why I said float left was because if I get rid of that, you'll notice this is wrapping correctly, but then when I refresh, it's no longer wrapping correctly because we don't have the float set on the parent, and that's why I put the float in there. And there we go. So everything is looking real nice right here. And again, you can start to play around with some values and styles, but you can see overall that we have something that's very, very mobile responsive. So now that we have got to this stage, what I want to do is sort of play around with this content right here and effectively pull in the JSON data. So let's move over to the script.js file, and what I'm going to do is simply close this down right now. So what I want to do right here is with this block of code, as you know, that is dealing with the graph, what I want to do is make sure that this code only runs on the dashboard page, and also the same code that's going to be dealing with the event section. So again, right now, this is running on every single page, potentially causing conflicts. So again, the way that we deal with that was the same way we dealt with the events page, by checking the ID attribute of an element is set to a certain value. So I can simply copy out this if statement right here and paste it above. And then I can open and close my parentheses and simply put that code inside of those parentheses. And in our case, what I want to do is right here, what I want to do is say check the body element, because we don't have the ID set on the HTML element, it's on the body element that has the ID of dashboard. So we're going to check to see if the body element has an attribute ID and it's equal to dashboard, and that way we know we're only going to target this current page. So save that, hit refresh, and make sure there's no errors, and then you'll be able to see that we're still getting our graph. Perfect. Now we can focus our attention on the events section. So what I'm going to do is below there where we're saying get JSON, I want to again use the get JSON method, and normally what you would do is you would call a specific file to get, let's say, the latest events or whatever else. In our case, again, we've just got the events.json file, so we'll work with that, but again, we're not going to organize the data or anything like that. But what we're going to do right now is again go up out the directory, go into the JSON directory and take a look at the events.php file. And then what we're going to do is call back a function. That function is returned with an argument. So that's basically like a variable that contains an array full of objects in which then we can extract out our information. Now that we've done that, what I want to do is create a for loop. And that for loop is going to attach these anchors right here that are going to be inside of our unordered list under col events right here. So we have our unordered list, and that's UI_nav list, and then we want to put in a list item with the anchor and so on and so forth. So let's just go back to script.js, and I want to put in a for loop because we want 3 links. So what I'm going to do is say I is equal to 0, so we're creating a variable that has the value of 0, and if I is less than 3, then we want to iterate through the loop. So I'm going to say I++, and then once I've done that, I can then open and close the brackets so we can run the code inside of here. And now what I can do is target the element with that class, and then I can append on the list items with all the anchors inside of them. So I'm just going to say append right here. And the reason why I'm not going to say HTML is because when you say HTML, it deletes out all the child elements. So every time it runs, it's going to delete the child elements out. So as soon as you put one in, it's just going to delete it. So you say append to add on to. And so I'm just going to say append, then I'm going to put in what HTML I want to append. And so go back to the PHP file and take a look at this list item and just copy that out and then paste that in, because that's effectively like our template. All the code is pretty much written. We just need to inject certain pieces of information into it. So I'm just going to put it all onto one line, because don't forget that JavaScript doesn't like line breaks right here when you use the append method or the HTML method or the prepend method. Doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't like it. So we're going to put in a list item, it's going to have an anchor, then we're going to have a link. So don't forget that with our event data, it has a URL inside of each object. So I'm just going to simply put that in here. So I'm going to say target the data, which is an array full of objects, and then inside of there we need to say which object we're going to target. So I'm just going to put in I right here, because I is being iterated through. So you start with 0, it looks at the first one, second one, third one, and so on and so forth. And so that's what's happening right here. So we're going to target that specific object in the array, and then we're going to pull out the value of the URL property. And then we can just follow through and find out all the rest of the other bits of information we need to put in. So then we have an image. Then we have in the strong tags the title. So therefore we're going to point to the current object in the array, and then we're going to pull out the title. Then what we have is the description finally. So let's just put that in just like so, and then go ahead and save this. So now what I'm going to do is go back to dashboard, and I'm simply going to delete out all of these list items. So save it, hit refresh, scroll down, it'll say all day, long event, repeat event, and so on and so forth. And that's how easy it actually gets. So thank you for watching me in this lesson, and please join me in the next lesson where we'll tie everything together.